Hey everybody, Zyle here, back with another physics degree not included gameplay video or base overview video. Really appreciate all the comments and views that off my first video ever. It's inspired me to keep going, and the base has evolved since we last spoke. And just for anyone who hasn't watched the last video, you probably should if you want to really be caught up on what the first 100 cycles were like. But we'll go back and talk about it. This is a hard run, max difficulty in all settings on the hardest planet. And I'm going to attempt to do all the achievements, all the colony achievements. So you have a look. And as we discussed last time, the hard ones is Carnivore, which we completed, Locavore, which was completed, and then actually, well, I've been playing Super Sustainable, which is don't use a natural gas, don't use petroleum, don't use a wood burner, don't use coal, which forced me to use hydrogen generators, and we'll get into that in more detail. But yeah, this one's completed now. So if I had natural gas, petroleum, oil, I have some wood, but not enough to ever power anything. Or coal. I have coal, but I need that for other purposes. The coal's kind of limited, and I hate coal generators, so it's not a route that I plan to go. So yeah, I'm still actually, until I can get over into some more advanced power systems, I'm using the hydrogen system. So we can have a look at that shortly. So here we are. We're at cycle 428. Seems like a long time. It's actually flown by. Run this while it's going. It's fairly stable, and that's when I'm playing. I really like to go for a stability build. So, there are some things, as everyone who plays this game, and maybe some people have just started, that you need to take care of, and the more consistent that those systems can be, the easier it is then to do bigger projects or space exploration or send dupes off to other planets when everything is working. So, those things are, I'm going to pause it for a minute. Those things is oxygen, power, food, morale, as well as then the dreaded temperature. Those are the 5 things I really think are important to have solved and into a steady state. What I mean is that, a couple hundred cycles can roll by and none of those systems will break down. Everything will just continue to churn. So after I'd finished the Carnivore achievement, I had talked about how I had the mealwood farms set up, and I had 100, it was done differently than before, but I had basically 126 of them. Because I had dupes to a specific number at that time, that's how many I needed in order to feed them all consistently. That, of course, has changed as we've advanced along. So the first one, oxygen. Let's look at that. Well, I'm still using the open-ended half Rodriguez setup, but I'm not venting to space anymore because there's no reason to. I need all the oxygen. And I've added a second one. So now I have 2 of them running, which anyone who has ever fooled around with these half Rodriguez will know that one of them's about enough, just about enough, a little bit over for 8 dupes. And I have 16 dupes. I love anything that's the multiple of 8s in this game. I find that there's a lot of systems that work if you're dealing with 8, 16, 24, and so on. So I settled on 16 for a variety of reasons. Anyway, so 2 of these systems is enough to provide the oxygen for 16 dupes. And so let's have a look first at oxygen. As you can see, fairly good overall. The entire base is running just around 1,000, which is where I like it to be. This takes time to fill up, and it's very slow because the dupes are taking in enough oxygen that you don't gain quickly when you're trying to really fill the open spaces up. But over time, it's just pressurized more and more and more. And I've done the math and I've monitored it, and I know what will happen. This will all fully pressurize to the level I want, and then it will continue to slowly grow. I'll have to deal with that when the time comes, but I'm not that concerned until it gets over 2,000. Within the actual system here, though. Yes, I've been forced to start using pumps. That is just with 2 of these going, the electrolyzers aren't efficient enough. They'll stall out. Venting it is not an option anymore. I need all that oxygen. So now what we've had to do is I've added 3, and that's less than what these systems normally think. Each one's a 1.5 to them, whereas you build it normally, I believe you would have 4 pumps at the bottom. So I've reduced the amount of pumps required quite a bit. So that's our oxygen system. Food is handled via pips. I did a bunch of math. I know what my long-term food goal is, which is Frost burgers. And for 16 dupes, I worked it out. 7 pip ranches plus the Dreco ranches I will one day get set up. That much meat will be enough to provide Frost burgers for 16 dupes, where the meat is always, there's enough meat. I know I can get the Frost burgers because on my other world, we have sleet wheat all over the place. And on the main world, this had lots of salt areas, I guess, which has the water weeds for lettuce. So that's achievable. Why I haven't sort of set that up, there's 2 main reasons why I haven't tried to advance the food beyond mealwood and just barbecue. Number one is just consideration of materials, but the other one is that water is required for the sleet wheat, and I'm under some water pressure right now. I only have 2 real sources of water, and unfortunately one of them is fairly hot, and if I started using this, it would end up being 95 degrees. So it's not a very good solution until I have some sort of cooling systems worked out, and I just don't have the power at this time. Well, I do, but I'm not there yet. This is my cold source from the cool salt slush geyser. Yeah, it's great, but it cannot pump out enough to really go beyond what I'm kind of using it for now. So if I were to add sleet wheat, I believe that I would go into a water deficit overall and not be able to maintain temperature control. And so there's not a real reason to get the Frost burgers yet. The reason I'm going to get the Frost burgers is, well, number one, because I like advanced systems, and doing Frost burgers is an advanced system. But morale-wise, I've got it all. Their morale is high enough where I'm happy with it, so I don't really need to get the Frost burgers that quickly. I can exist on the mealwood and the barbecue that's spitting out for some time. So that's the food issue, and the food's solved. This system will continue. The food will continue to be made, and we always are somewhere between 30,000 to 40,000. I know the system works and is providing enough because I've run it for a couple hundred cycles, and I'm always just slightly gaining. In fact, the gains I get beyond the 0 parameter is because I sometimes take food from this. And of course, if I get 12,000 barbecue, it just pumps my number by 12,000. So it ranges from you'll see it jump up and it'd be when you make a bunch of barbecue, then it'll fall down again and so on. But it's never gotten over 100K and it's never hit 0. So it's a reliable food system. Next is power. Well, where am I getting my power from to do all the stuff? And as you can see, I do have quite a lot of power use going on that I need to work with, specifically in their condos, in the luxury apartments I've built for them. We've got the party line phone, which they're very fond of, as well as I'm running fridges, all of them. And the beauty of fridges is when they're cooling, it's 120 watts, but once they get to the energy saver, it's only 20 watts, and they're very often an energy saver. So it's a good way to preserve the food, and it's part of the system, and it's a good place for me to do my food delivery system for efficiency and where to store it. So power-wise, okay, I need power. Well, let's look at this thing because I had explained in the last one, but I want to go over it again. So this is a configuration. Wow, wonderful. Yeah, a little spaghetti-ish, but it has to be. Jamming all that in, I didn't have too many choices. Pretty much kind of similar as before, where the first generators in both systems is what runs the electrolyzers, the gas pump, and as well as each one is hooked up to one of these desalinators. Why do I have 2? because I have to have backup redundancy. There are reasons why sometimes this might stall out. And one of the main reasons is something further down the line stalls out. By having two of them, it's highly unlikely that both of these will stall out at the same time. So if one stalls out, the other one will pick up the pace. And so anyway, so that's the power. Everything is based off these first two for this entire system. The secondary one over here on the top, it is running this pump and the 3 fans. The last two down here, they're running the rest of the base. I've just split it up evenly so I don't get any, brownouts or anything like that. And so there's always enough power from the system to make sure these two areas are accommodated, right? Literally, one of them is for my main dispenser unit collection point, and then for all the fridge and lights and stuff, and the other one primarily focused on the party lines. Here you can see, yep, they're all 8 of them are on the party lines, and you can see my batteries that are corresponding to it. There's no issue, and it didn't even dent it. So the efficiency is very high. Now, of course, I'm using power control stations because that changes these from 800 to 1200, and that's a massive gain. And honestly, I'm at a surplus of power now, which is awesome because it is time for me to move on to greater and better things. And one of that is, I have to start making steel. I just have to, right? I've already started using the rusty oxidizer. It is at max gas pressure, but it's slowly churning out and dumping the iron up here. So I've already started to do that. I'm nowhere near what I need for real getting quantities of steel that I want, but I'm going to have to start to work with steel. I'm going to have to start to get that going on. So the power system is very consistent. I really like this whole setup. I love how much power it produces once you get the power stations going. And honestly, they're always full. They're always jammed up full. The batteries are always full. They never are spinning the generator wheels. And that's where I want to be because I need to start being able to add more stuff, more power draining things to this whole base system if I want to progress forward. So the way the second generator works is it's hooked up to these battery, and the same thing, this generator's hooked up to this battery. So these are the base suppliers. It's taking the surplus, which there always is off the first one. And the last one is adding to that as well, but it's a burn unit. So you'll see with the automation here, right? I've got the automation on the first one hooked to the battery, and then on the second one as well, right? But the third one is freely floating. And the reason why is I can't let the system get backed up. So the idea there is that you either have to burn more power so that you never back it up, or you need one that will just waste the hydrogen. I don't like wasting it, but it works. It's consistent, and I don't have to worry about it. So that's power solved. So we got food solved, we got power solved, we got oxygen solved. Morale, well, we can just maybe have a random inspection here of where the morale, what it looks like. The high difficulty is 20% a day, right, for stress. And so you really have to fight against that. So I need high morale. I need to combat that very aggressively. You can see if the high morale, another little buff here, we're still very close to the wire. Right. I don't know if another one can show me maybe the doctor. Again, high morale, chit chat, appreciated, soft friend, and so on. Where am I getting all the morale from? Well, we can go into the skill list here and look, right, if we look at morale. So great meal. So it ate some barbecue today. Well, okay, great. That doesn't always happen. But they're eating great hauls. The decor is fantastic. I try to really put them into their interested skills. I'm giving them 4-shift breaks, showers, a washroom, and barracks, and so on. So that, as you can see, I cranked 40 morale already on this, and I'm not even into any food that's good. I haven't really added too many other facilities. Just the basic stuff is cranking that. It does vary, but it's always above. Why I like high morale and I mean really high, is because I love when they hit that point where they get sparkles or they start doing sticker art or balloons and stuff, because all those add up as buffs. And I love the sparkles one because the guys just move so fast when they're under that influence. But so I always am determined to have morale crank. So you can see, the decor in this place. I've done everything I can to with what I got to maximize it so that they're always getting that maxed out decor buff to the morale. Party line adds a lot, and because I have them on shifts where 8 sleep at one time and the other 8 sleep at the other time, they're all paired up in double rooms. Basically, and we'll try and catch a morning here, when their shift on the schedule, when their shifts end, right, then they're on opposite time zones, but they all end up going and talking on the party line together. So that has quite the impact on the morale, because they get the extra bonus, because it's, you only get one, I think, if no one else is on the phone at the same time, but you get 2 if you have multiples. So morale is solved, definitely for the near future. Right, so we got oxygen covered, power covered, food covered, and morale covered. So everything is going good. So let's dive into some of these systems a little bit closer. So the food delivery system is one that I think I spent a long time on. And actually, I encountered a few issues, a few problems that I had to solve. So the basic thing here is that, the barbecue is being cooked here, right? Back it up a bit. Pips are farmed. Eggs are picked up when the critter sensor says that the things are full. Dupes will grab the eggs when they need them to put them into these incubators. This system locks down if there's no requirements by any of them. It just shuts itself down, so I'm not wasting power. The moment that something's required, then it all kicks in. It goes open. Now the dupes will run in and hug it. And I do try to keep one of the cuddle pips in here, but the latest one has passed away, and I haven't seen an egg in a while. And I'm not sure why they didn't lay an egg and repopulate, but whatever. It's a very minor detail, because I'm not worried about incubator speed anymore. The 4 days to wait for an egg is a short time in this scheme. So whenever eggs are produced, they're scooped up through the automation system, brought up and dumped into this evolution chamber. You can see it's in action right now. It waits until there's 6 of them in here, and then it goes, and it just finished. And you can see the barbecue is then pulled out and dumped into here. Cook will cook it, or the meat is dumped in here. Cook will get working on the barbecue stuff, and it will be scooped up and sent into the system. This thing is set for barbecue and for meal ice, and it does allow manual use. The dupes will seem to prioritize putting it in here, even though the fridges are set to 9. And what will happen is, this system over here is designed to deliver food when it's needed to where it's needed. So if you look at the way the automation is, this crazy automation, I'm going to pause it for a minute. So what happens is, basically, if food is required for this fridge, it will start sending a negative signal, as it is right now. Now I got 2 problems, because one, I want to tell this shipping thing to be shoving it in there, but at the same time, I need to be telling this one that, hey, there's a fridge that needs food. So you have a little bit of a logic situation there, where you're trying to, with minimal wiring and so on, tell one thing that I need something, but at the same time the other one. The problem is, if you just start joining, if this was just all joined up without this system in place, then whenever any single one is saying, hey, send me food, then the whole thing is wide open, because these things will travel backwards. Like, there's no forward backwards direction on automation wire. If it's lit up green, everything it gets connected to is going to be lit up green, right? And so what that would end up doing is causing, let's say that this one needs food. Well, it would send a green signal down the main channel to let this node open up. However, it would also be, if it was just plugged directly into these things, it would open all of them up and all the food would just keep going into here. And why I do this whole system is because I don't want meal lights all jammed up in the rails. I don't want this all full of food, okay? It'll go rotten and stuff. At the very end, in case there's a misfire, it just drops it straight back down, and a dupe will just do something with it. So that's why it is. So the way that I solve this is to use, you can split. You can't run 2 signals off of one of these. I couldn't make 2 wires going out. It doesn't split. So my solution, and maybe there's a better solution, or as you get more research or something. I did a lot of research though, trying to see how you would split a signal. I need one signal to be split into two different areas and not to impact each other. And actually, 2 NOT gates or NOR gates can split a signal because they're only one way. This is only one way. A signal coming in here does not backfire into it. So you just take your line, run it through 2 NOT gates like I've done here, and then send the one signal where you need it to be, which is the mask call. So you can see this one is green because it wants it, and all of them are lit up green, but it's not backfiring into these. Then the second one, it does need food, so it's green, letting it know it should be open. But then the one that doesn't need food, this one, is shut off because this thing is full. So that's a pretty powerful thing to know about, that in some of these more advanced systems is you can split a signal into 2 independent paths and then react off them depending on what your needs are. And I think it's mostly useful when you need to have, like, you're sending, hey, if any, then do this, but if one, do this. And when you have that split level out of a fridge like that, or there's a lot of situations where I know I'm going to be able to use this, but that's the system that does that. And I did a lot of research. I read a lot of Reddit posts. I couldn't find anybody who explained to me how to split a signal because I think it's a very rare case use, and a lot of people don't get that advanced with their automation systems. So anyways, that system works extremely well. As you can see, there is no backup. There's no food sitting in the channels and stuff like that, and so it works excellent. So then to go over and look at these luxury condos, as I call them, the reason that I designed them, I'm going to keep advancing time because we get to, you can see. So here's an example, right? So a lit workplace off a light makes them eat faster. That's very important because they're eating 2,000 kcal per day. And not to mention that eating 2,000 kcal per day is double the eating time. But if it's meal lice, they'll go grab like 1,000 and bring it back. Especially when they were running down to the fields. They grab one pile and run it back and eat it. Run pile and run it back. So you need to, just for the fact that they eat double the amount every day, you really want to get any buff you can to cause them to hurry up. So pressure plate, when everyone's using it, the light comes on and they eat faster. Now, why don't I just leave the light on all the time? Well, a lot of people don't know, but they produce 500 DTUs. 500 a light. That's a lot. What is our this produces 1.25 kDTUs. So it's about half, a little bit less than half of what an electrolyzer is producing, right? Now, a generator, 4 kDTUs, so that's 8 times as much. But still, 500 kDTUs is a lot. Now when you multiply that by 8 lights, okay, now you're producing as much heat inside your living area as what a generator produces. So you want these lights on as little as possible. In other words, I don't want them on unless they're eating, and that's what the system does, right? Pressure plate whacked into it, one for both sides because they've got individual desks. Like, it's shared by 2. Same thing then goes with these party lines. These party lines, their heat is 500 DTUs. So now we've added 500 DTUs for this. Well, we'd like a light on because, believe it or not, a lit workplace on a party line, they talk on the phone faster, and they spend that's a long time when they're talking on the phone, as we'll see when they go to use them. So motion sensor hooked directly up. Yeah, it blinks on and off, of course, when they run in, but here you can see Mace Windu. He's got his light, and his bar is moving 15% faster because of the light. And that's 1,000 DTUs being made while that's happening, and then boom, it's off. So that's going to have a massive effect on the cooling I need for the base. As you can see, I'm pretty stable with my cooling, and I haven't made a cooling system. I'm doing this all off of the natural cooling that I'm able to get from this. And I'll explain more about the cooling later. But that has been pretty static like that, where we are maintaining the temperature. And how you know you're maintaining a good temperature? When your plants aren't shriveling up from the heat or from the cold. And so you want to be between the 20 to 30 degrees range. And if I spot check it, it's pretty much 26, 25, 27 throughout it. Further on, the bedrooms are nothing special, but they are designed, of course, that when I can get plastic, I can put comfy beds in. And then these will become like private bedrooms, which gives a very huge bust. You need to be this size, decor items, comfy plastic bed, as well as the back wall has to be tiled with drywall. So they're already set up as soon as I can get my hands on plastic, which is when I get my hands on Drecos, and then I'll upgrade all these, further morale boosts. Right? Bathrooms, okay. So it's a similar type of situation. When they go to the bathroom, they go faster if you've got a light on. That's when they use a sink. They go faster if you get a light on. So duplicate sensor hooked up to the light. Simple. If they're in this room, it's because they're using the bathroom and then the sink. When they're not in the room, the light's off. So that allows me to, again, control the DTUs. There's other ways to do it with timers and cycle timers that I used to do. But honestly, I really just want it to be only on when they're using something. Yes, when they run through, lights blink on and off, but that's minuscule. That heat generation and power drain is minuscule, right? So that's more or less the system. We went over how the food comes in, but also the sweeper is here so that when the food drops out here, it puts it in the fridge. And these things are set to 5 kilograms because I don't want to really store much more than that. If there's 5 kilograms in there, that's enough for 2 dupes for 24 hours. And then sometimes, though, food rots and turns into a rot pile. And if you don't deal with it, it's going to turn into polluted dirt. And I can't have where everybody can access each other's places. Okay? I can't set the lavatory. I have to have it public because it's being shared by 2 guys. Their beds can be private. The mess hall tables are private. But I can't have this or else I'd have to have 2 lavatories. And I don't want to waste the materials or the space. So it's being shared. So that becomes a shared environment. Well, if you have this to public, they start just randomly using whatever one they feel like. It can cause issues. So in the way that I control, and another reason why I have to control is they'll start using the party lines that are wherever closest to them. So what happens is these 4 end up getting used a lot more, and then the heat unbalances. I want them to all use their own, and they're on these 8-person cycles, so it's like 8 on, 8 off. And when the 8 are in this I'm home mode, it's luxury time, I'm eating, I'm taking a shower, I'm using the bathroom, and then I'm talking on the phone. There's only 8 of them that are doing that. The other 8 are on a work shift, so they're nowhere near the main base. So the way I do it is simply take the front door, and I don't let anyone in. And the only reason I'll do this is if work needs to be done, if I have to clean something up or do some work. But most time it's set like this, and the 2 people who live there have access, and they're the only 2 that go in. I was doing work earlier, so that one was opened up, but you can see all the rest of them. I just turned them all off, and that limits the access the way I want it. So that's kind of how the room setup is, and this will get more advanced as I move along and get access to more materials and things, because I don't have reed fiber, so there's no paintings yet, and I don't have plastic, so there's no comfy beds, but it's doing the job. And also, I don't have enough plant seeds, so I've only planted really what I could. So eventually I'll fill this all up as I get more plant seeds. So that's the bedroom system. Now, as far as how cooling goes, this is a bit more advanced. In the past, I've used what we call an injection system, and basically where you have two liquids and they're different temperatures, and you're trying to combine them together to equal a specific temperature, and you're not going to do it using aqua tuners. So here we have hot and here we have cold, and we want to combine them together. Well, injection system is basically, I'll just show you. It would be something like along the lines of where we would take plumbing. We'd use insulated, but anyways, you take one like that, then you would use a liquid valve, right? And then you'd have the other one, liquid valve, and then you'd have that. So these would go in, okay? And then what would happen is these would combine up, okay? So imagine if you have cold over here and hot over here. And now you can set your pipe valves to a specific amount. You can actually then ratio at what comes in. So let's say that I'm at 80 degrees on the one side and 20 degrees on the other side. Then it means for every one packet of hot, if I sent 4 packets of cold, we're roughly getting to a cold temperature overall, or 4 cold, 1 hot. If it was all 0 coming in and 80 here, you can understand what I'm saying. By telling this one to send a certain size and this one sends a certain size, they don't pair up though. Okay, what they do is they join up in the pipe where it goes hot, 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 or cold, 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 and then a hot one, then cold, 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 and then a hot one. Well, wherever you're setting that, it's balancing out the temperature. If you were to put it into like another area like this, the mixture would all happen, and you could get it to the temperature that you want. And I've used that system in the past with sleet wheat, where I have had to inject some hot water and some cold water to make sure that I resulted in like around the 0 to 5 degrees, because I didn't want the pipes to break because the water was too cold for the sleet wheat. But at the same time, I'm trying to temperature control the place to a specific amount. So that injection system is powerful and has its case uses, but the system I'm going with though is better. It's just not an injection, but a mixing pot. So here we have the mixing pot area, and what happens is the cold is coming in here, whatever. It doesn't matter, and that's the beauty of the system. It doesn't matter what the temperature is coming in. It only matters that one is the cold source and one is the hot source. And when they're dumped together, that's when we're going to determine what our output is. And so this automation system in here, it looks complex, but it's basically controlling the temperature of the overall mass of the liquid, and then the pipe sends it out. So we have these are just set to make sure that there's enough, like that we're not getting too full. That's all they are. They're just saying don't get too full, okay? These are what controls it. So we have one telling the cold side to send the signal in if the temperature is above a certain degree. In other words, we are only going to send in cold water if the water inside the main part is getting too warm. And the other side is the exact same thing, only below. We're only telling it to send in hot water if this is starting to get too cold. And that allows us to maintain a constant temperature of output. A very controlled system for mixing two liquids together with different temperatures and getting the desired result, provided you have one that's colder and one that's hotter than the desired temperature. And so you can see that the output that comes out is between 20 to 21 degrees. Then when it gets through the desalinator, it comes out 20 degrees. It comes out 20 degrees. So now my constant output temperature is 20 degrees. And of course, that goes everywhere. Primarily, it goes up into the electrolyzers. The last thing I want to do is be sending hot water into electrolyzers, because this will all overheat, and I still don't have steel or gold amalgam. So I don't want this to get too hot, and I really just don't want it to be too hot, period, because I know heat is it just spreads, right? No matter how you lock it in, it spreads. And as soon as you're using something to create oxygen, especially with a free flowing system like I have, now you're spreading hot oxygen all over the place. So that can't happen either. Now, is it hot in here? Yep. Too hot. In fact, if I were to be sending this hot oxygen into this base, this whole base would overheat. But that's how hot it is in there, and that's what the temperature is like everywhere else, and that oxygen is freely flowing. The way I'm doing that is just through a couple of systems, using the cold that I have. So we look at the oxygen vent. Okay, so these two are sending their oxygen through this system, okay, because again, I'm controlling the temperature and I have more cold than I need to use right now. It's holding up and cooling it. So it's going in at 45 degrees and it's coming out at 20. And then that goes to the bottom of the base, help keep everything cool. The other one, it is, well, it's feeding this thing, of course, but it is coming out. As soon as it exits this hot chamber, it's insulated. And then with a single pip into my cold bath, we go from 40 to 11 to negative. And now we're running negative. Oh, well, I don't want to dump negative oxygen into the base. So believe it or not, we do that. We bring it back. We run it back into our power system, and we don't radiant it. What we do is we well, again, I do a lot of mathematics. I've just determined at the current baseline temperature that we're holding at inside here as to what this need to be lengthwise, so that when it finally exits, it's coming out at 20 degrees. Now, if I find that it's coming out too cold, then I will lower this down. If I find it's coming out too hot, then, if it's coming out too cold, I would raise it. And if I find it's coming too hot, I will lower it. So I can adjust this up and down this wall and the length of this, depending on what I need. But so far, it's been holding like that, and I'm pretty happy with it. I don't really pay much attention to things once I stick them in place. If they're working, they're working. But I do like to have things that can signal me that there's a problem, and plants are awesome for that. So if I quickly look at this and I see all the plants are looking healthy, I know that the temperature's good, and I'm not that worried about it. So that's how the cooling is being handled, and it's maintaining quite well. I have some pretty powerful temperatures on this map. I got a magma volcano surrounded by ridiculous high temperature stuff. Now, I have plans for this. We all know what this means. This means a lot of energy, whether it's going to be used for power or it's going to be used to make steam for power purposes or for rockets. Then this is very powerful. Also, when you're making steam, it doesn't matter how hot the water is. So this is abundant. My plan is, of course, this is going to be where I'm going to be launching my first rockets out of. And I'm going to make steam using this magma, this abyssalite that's super hot, along with this hot water to produce steam to fuel rockets. And that's what I'm about to start to get into next, because again, I want to achieve a very stable base for this playthrough. I have a lot I need to achieve. That achievement list is long, and there's a lot of complex stuff in it, but just nothing that's on a time limit. So I have time now, because the base, I could let it run for a long time and nothing's going to go wrong, in my opinion. So, but it is time to start to, get past what I'd call the middle phase and start going towards the later phase, not the end game phase, but the next phase. And the next phase is going to space. And for a couple reasons, obviously. In case anyone wonders why I did this, the radiation out here is brutal. Okay, the radiation's 370 rads per cycle. These guys run out here to do something, and they get radiated so quick. And I can show you, I'll just tell them to go out here and dig up this stuff, and as well as to go and sweep up some of this stuff, right? And we'll let them at it. And they'll start going, and you're going to see. They can't even last half a day at working out here. And they start to get radiation sickness. And it goes quick. They go from minor to major quite fast. And what happens is I have to use this door to tell them when they can, I should let them all out, when they can go in and out based on the radiation. So once I see them getting minor radiation sickness, and yes, I'm making rad pills and they're eating them, okay? But here we go. This guy has minor radiation sickness. He probably ran out here to pick something up earlier when we were talking. That happens so fast. You can't, and when they get major radiation sickness, they start radiation vomiting. And we all know what, if they make a mess or they vomit, what a disaster that can be. One of the things is I like pure bases. So, when you look at my gases overlay, there's not a lot going on that isn't oxygen. There's not like hydrogen floating around up here. I can show you from this perspective. There's not chlorine and like I like control over gases. I like it to be just all oxygen, to be quite clean. So I got one blip of oxygen here, and I got one blip of polluted oxygen. I'll get around to cleaning those up later, right? But overall, it's just oxygen and carbon dioxide drifting down to be dealt with. So radiation sickness, vomit then turns into polluted oxygen. I don't like it, right? And they're not happy about it either. But we'll let this run. We'll see that they start to get fired up pretty fast, right? I don't even like to take my eyes away from it when it's happening. Here, I forgot to do this. This will get them out there. So anyways, why did I do this? Well, because the radiation is brutal, and when the researcher's out here doing his space thing, he would get bombarded by radiation, and I'd never be able to get anything done with it. And I don't have steel to build bunkers, and that doesn't work anyways. You have to have space access. So doing this, it cuts it in half. Okay, that's better than the radiation situation. See, here we go. This guy is already, right? He's got it. So then I will go down here. I can see by his face, he can't go outside anymore. And I quickly check. Anybody else? No. Okay. But so the way this building works is the entrance to the building is right here. Okay, the second tile over from the left. Doesn't matter where he looks like when he's in here. He's counted as being here. And so by putting a barrier up on half of it, he gets no radiation at all when he's in there. So that's a really good solution to using this. Yes, it takes him twice as long to do the scanning work. So what? It gets done. All right. So anyways, they cleaned it up. Anyways, that's about the radiation. The radiation's just brutal. Like I have to double layer these, as you can see. Right. It's tolerable, mostly safe what's coming in. Right. And here, mostly safe. But if you single layer it, it's too much. So yeah, I double layered it. So star map wise and future plans. Okay. Well, my main planet is Radioactora, which is a radiation heavy planet, as we know. Then my teleporter planet is Reverse Celios. It's an upside down world, which is nice because you get this really good zone at the bottom. It has sulfur zones and frozen zones. So I'm pretty happy about the zones it has. Lots of copper. So this has been a source of, it still is. This is where I'm getting my metals from, is out of here. We're just slowly mining it all out. I send one guy in. They get stressed out, but they can handle about 3 or 4 days. And then I have to pull them out. But I send one in for 3 or 4 days. They do some work. Then by the time it recharges, I send another one. I just keep running shifts in here. And then they run up here for the battery, and this is where they're loading up the copper and sending it over to the home world so I can use it. But on top of this planet, it is just a living magma hell. It is not friendly, and I just know there's no easy path through this. This is not accessible. I don't know if it ever will be. It's a lot of heat to deal with. It's just a mess. And luckily, it will take a long time before it can radiate through any of this, but eventually it will. There's a great pile, though, of not too hot obsidian, which is nice. So I'll get that out of there eventually. Yeah, so what is the next plan? Actually, before that, but since I was talking about the other planet, when I send them over, one of the problems is food, right? Like I don't have time to be setting this. This isn't going to be a base. This is a hellhole. All this is starting to melt. There's liquid on the ground. They run through it. They get stressed out. No one's living here. I do have basics set up. I've got a mess hall. I've got a barracks, and I've got a bathroom, okay? None of that makes them happy. They can survive for about 4, maybe 5 cycles for some of the lower morale guys before their stress hits about 80% and I get them out, all right? But they need food. And yes, I often will take from the mini pod food and dump it here so they can use it. But I've killed most of the animals. There's 2 there I could get. There's some farming, but it's not fast enough. So how do I supply them with food? Well, everyone knows what we do. We send it the other way. We use our output to send them food. One of the things, though, is like when you tell them to send food, it's unpredictable. Like sometimes 5 of them will show up and dump food in here, and you'll send through like 10,000 kcals of food instantly, which is no good. It's too much food. They only need about 4 or 5,000 kcals for their trips. I don't want to have a bunch of food sitting over there rotten. I don't want to waste food. So I came up with this other system, which is used for sending food to the other side. So basically, it's like this. We use an AND gate. I love AND gates. They're beautiful things. This one's set on a timer, 1 second to 10 off. The other one's a switch, so I can control what's going down. Through a NOT gate. So in other words, when I flip this on, it's telling the system, yes, we want to proceed, and it makes sure nothing can come out here. And this thing parcels it out. It only lets 1 second, 10 seconds off. So it's slowly, and it's not slow, I'll show you, but it meters it out. It allows me to count. I can see how many goes through, and I flip the switch. So what I do, and I'm going to show you, I set this to manual use. I flip the switch on. Sometimes I yellow alert it, but this time I'll just 9 it out so we can see. This is closed. You can hear the beeps going when it wants to send it. They start loading up meal lice. They don't care how much. They're just going to start putting it because they're not that busy. So all the suppliers just like, oh, I got something to do right on. And so I could see another one went. Here's another one. And that's going to be enough. So we'll turn it off. The thing is, when I turn this off, it doesn't, and I tell this, no more manual use. If they've decided they're filling this, they're filling it. They don't care. You can see, Asajj has a handful. I've said no more manual use. Will she listen? No. Now they will. Now they've been told, right? So that's just a case. See, he just, right? There's no manual use. But it had already decided that job, and it ran and it shoved that in there, right? So if you do that, you'll end up with, I did it before I had the system set up. Sometimes 20, 25, 30,000 worth of meal lice would be dumped in there before I could even what are you guys doing? I'd turn it off and they'd still be putting it in. So what this does is it says as soon as I don't want food to go in here anymore, instead if they load this up, it's going to drop out here. And they can, until all their mental jobs are done and they no longer consider this to be allowed manual use. So this is just a food parceling system that allows me to have control over how much food I send to the other world so I don't waste it. Pretty simple, right? The food goes in here, and then is this on? If it is, when the timer goes, it'll send 1 packet. And if it's not on, then it dumps it to here. But if this switch is on, this is locked. So then it ends up being jammed up. So what happens is it backs itself up, and then all the food they're throwing in will sit in here till it's 1,000. And then next one goes, and 1,000 goes, and 1,000 goes. So it's rudimentary. It's kind of hackish, but it works. It does require micro, but honestly, when I'm sending a dupe to the other planet, I'm paying attention. That's a serious affair. It's a mission. So I start by figuring out who I'm sending. I send over the food, then I go to teleporter, I tell who I want to go over there, and then I pay attention because 4 or 5 cycles, you don't get over there. They're not just going to have a breakdown. They're going to break down, and it's going to never stop because their stress is so high. Like they'll, even if they get a reduction, they're just going to get stressed right away again, and they're going to start freaking out. So by 80%, I got to pull them out, get them back over here. They start using the mess tables if they hit 85, or I'm sorry, the massage tables if they hit 85, and life goes on. So, and it does now. I've got everyone back down, but it'll take them a while before they will get their stress worked off. I will send someone over there, and they won't be able to go back for 20, 30 cycles as their stress slowly drops. Luckily, I have divided all the jobs up specifically in a way where like shift A has one cook, one rancher, 2 operators, 2 suppliers, 1 builder digger, and so on. Like, and then shift B has the same thing. They're all mirrored. In fact, they all live together. So, Jin is the researcher, but she's also a cook. And then Han is the cook. And so these are the cooks, and so on. So everything is very organized. And I do that because my background is in logistics, and I have a very high belief in doing things efficiently, doing things where you eliminate as many random variables out of the equation as possible. So don't know if there's much else I want to get into. Well, I mean, we all know this system. This is just the perpetual. I'll show you the other one. It's simpler. It's just a perpetual carbon dioxide eliminator. I don't see many people using them that often, but honestly, they're so simple. You literally just hook up a sieve to the carbon skimmer, and hook the piping up in this way, and then inject in some water, however you want, until it sort of starts functioning, and then cut the water off and back out. And then, like, it's not active now because there's no carbon, but it's just going to keep working. Whenever it's carbon, it's going to keep cycling around. You don't waste any water that way, and you remove the carbon dioxide. This one I have a storage unit because I always like to have some polluted water extra built up in case I need it for coolant or for any other reason. So that's set up in that way. I guess the last thing I would talk about is the garbage disposal system. So this is set so that, well, they'll dump rust, but basically polluted dirt and rot piles needs to go here. And all the polluted dirt and rot pile that this thing is asking for, if anything ever rots here, gets scooped up through this transport system and gets dumped here. It's being dumped down to these poke shells because poke shells eat rotten food and produce, I think it's sand. It's been so long since I even thought about it. I just always have these on the go. Yeah, they excrete sand when they eat garbage. Okay, fantastic. I like sand. Sand is very useful. Sand is used for many, many things, and so I don't ever want to run out of sand. They're a great system for making sand, and then I don't have to think about it. So also, though, their shells, whenever they molt, which isn't that often, but it can be made into lime. So that's another good thing to have as much as you can have because you need to use lime to make steel. So they're an excellent disposal system. I keep this all jugged in here with any bleach stone because bleach stone was on this map, and I just throw them down here. It turns into chlorine. Chlorine is useful for lots of things, including cleaning polluted water, but also the rusty oxidizer, it spits out chlorine. So this is kind of always how I've combined all this together in these systems. The gas vent is just here with, if the pressure's high enough and there's chlorine, then eject it. And yes, of course, chlorine, if it's going to space. Okay, I hate chlorine. We only have very limited uses for it. But it does clean any polluted water that I happen to have. And, well, the polluted water comes from, if there's ever any polluted water to clean up on the map, they come and they dump it here, and then it is just fed into this general system. It's fed down here to get rid of it because the trees don't care if it has germs and it doesn't do anything. I forgot to talk about this. So all the waste from the lavatory, the sink, and their showers, believe it or not, with 16 dupes, the math works out that the amount of waste they produce will support 7 arbor trees, almost to the dime, provided that you use a light in their shower Otherwise, you're producing too much. When you use a light in your shower, they use the shower faster, and it produces like every second it produces the water. So rather than it being 16 seconds, it's like 13 seconds or whatever. So you actually tamper it down with 16 dupes to the point where they are just slightly overproducing what 7 arbor trees require, which is awesome to be generating that from water into their bathrooms to feed these plants, which keep your pips alive. So it's a very self-contained system. So of course, things can fluctuate when guys go away to the other planet. They're not producing. Therefore, now we start to fall short. And then there are times where it seems, like I say, it slightly overproduces. So I have safeguards built in. So basically, you can see it's all running through right now. There's a whole shift load comes through. And if this pipe backs up, because the last thing you ever want is these pipes to back up all the way here, and they'll become non-functional, and you'll have a big mess on your hand. So if this pipe ever backs up to this point, then it dumps it over into these reserves. And you can see it has happened a little bit, right? And the chlorine cleans it so that if I ever want to use this polluted water for any reason, since it's not a constant steady drip in, I can just hook up a line and drain it out and use it for whatever purpose I want, okay? And then, so at the same time, I have a tank down here with polluted water, and if I find I'm falling short for some reason, and these are getting too empty, and I just check it every once in a while, rarely do I even need to do anything, then I have the ability to hook it up and just feed it back in. And I could also do that from this one as well. So it's always good to be, this system, I want to automate it, I want to have it so it's fully balanced. I'm just not quite put the thought into it, the work into it, because I know that it's so close to the dime on things that it's not going to just break down. The worst that would happen is if it starts, they drink too much. It's not like they die or anything. They just grow slightly slower. The pips, though, honestly, one of these trees can support 12 pips. So even if they don't get fully fed all the time, the amount of water coming in all the time is enough to keep the trees active enough and growing enough that the pips are always happy and full and growing. So it's my concern isn't about feeding the trees the polluted water. My concern is about if it backs up, the disaster that will start to happen. And so this is a safety valve. I really encourage people to think about backup systems, redundancy systems, and safety valves and things like that. Because, we all know we get busy over on one part of the map doing some project, and 10 cycles goes by, and suddenly we realize, oh my God, what happened over here? What is going on? And sometimes your only choice with a disaster is to revert back like 5 or 6 cycles earlier into your save, and all the work and all the stuff you planned out is gone, right? But you don't have a choice because, a disaster has happened. So anyways, like I say, this video is probably long enough. I don't really care. I know there's formulas for YouTube about your video should be 25 minutes or whatever, they'll get more views. If I wanted to get views, I'd play Diablo 4. But I love this game, and I really like the community, and I really appreciate that the Oxygen Not Included Reddit mods let me put a post up to my video and didn't delete it like I'm self-promoting or something. And I really appreciate the comments and the feedback. I've always found talking to anyone about this game, it's different than talking to gamers about other games. People are just, again, it's a different mentality if you play this game. It is probably my favorite game. I've played, I think now I'm up to 400 hours total on Steam. And I'm still learning stuff all the time and still enjoying it. And now that I'm playing it on the hardest settings possible, survival mode, challenge mode, whatever, it's even more fun because I really feel it's testing everything I've learned to the maximum. So anyways, really appreciate people who've subscribed and hit the like button. Again, it doesn't mean much to me if I was trying to do something, build a channel or anything like that in a serious way. This wouldn't be the game I would choose. It just doesn't have the audience metrics the way that others would, but it's a game I like, and I've never really made gaming videos because I've just never been interested enough in a game to feel like I had anything to contribute. But with this one, I feel like that maybe some people can learn from some of these videos and some of the systems I develop, and I like sharing these types of systems with people. So I hope everyone enjoys them, and I will try and do another update once we have some kind of significant change in where I'm at. Last thing is, next mission to space, we'll be going here. This is where I need to go because there's jungle and there's Drecos, and I need Drecos to get serious about this. So that's our target. And my next video, I will have landed on that planet, and I will have stolen a Dreco and set up a Dreco system back at the home planet. And that's probably when I will make an update. Maybe sooner if I think it's interesting, maybe a shorter video. This was a bit of a long one because I had a lot to talk about. I didn't want to make the video until I felt that this phase was stabilized, and it is. So it was a bit longer because I'm going over stuff. I won't have as much to go over probably next time, but who knows? We'll see where I get. Anyways, thanks again for watching. Really appreciate it.